everyone, it's Taylor here. We recently celebrated our 16th wedding anniversary, and this is the card I made for my husband using several Tailored Expressions products. It's all built around the Baroque Pocket and Baroque Overlay. Both include the impress lines so that you can score and fold those to create the design that I did. I'm also using the Rustic Daisy and Love Story dies, along with the Inside Scoop Anniversary and the With Love on Our Anniversary sentiment from the Flip the Lace stamp set. I'll also be using the basic gray magnetic discs to hold the overlay closed, and I'll be doing lots of blending with my blender brushes and several different colors of ink. I'm using sweet potato pie, guava, pink champagne, honey, peaches and cream, and Oreo for my sentiment stamping. So let's get started on the project. My first step is going to be to die cut the Baroque Overlay from Sugar Cube cardstock. I do want to note that you want to make sure you use a metal shim because this is a very intricate die. It does take a little bit to poke out all those pieces, but the beautiful design is well worth it. It has an impress line included with the die, so you can fold that, and I recommend using a bone folder to get a really sharp crease. Here I have a full sheet of Sugar Cube cardstock, and I've cut that in half to create my A2 card base. I'm going to take that overlay then and adhere it behind the front flap of the card. I'm using 1/8 inch sticky tape and peeling the backing off that and then adhering that overlap over the front of the card so that it closes as you can see here. I'm using my bone folder to give it a nice crisp crease so that it closes just perfectly. Next, I'm taking the coordinating Baroque Pocket and doing the same. I've cut it from Sugar Cube cardstock and I'm using my bone folder to crease the 3 edges to create a pocket out of this die cut. It'll take just a moment to poke all of these little pieces out of the die cut using my die pick, but again, it's well worth the effort with this beautiful design that's left. I'm using the same 1/8 inch sticky tape on the front of each of the flaps. When I remove the backing paper, I can glue that down to the inside of my card to create a pocket to hold my picture. And I found that a bone folder was helpful again to get a really crisp crease on my card. Next, I've applied a strip of the 1.5 inch purple tape, and I'm using that as a mask to protect the back of my card. I only want the ink on this portion of the card, so that when you fold it, you'll see the ink through the overlay. I started with peaches and cream in the center of the project and moved down to the honey ink, and then the sweet potato pie at the bottom. I'm going to overlap the pink champagne and the peaches and cream. I end up going back with a little bit more peaches and cream because I covered up some of that with my honey ink. So I'm filling that in with peaches and cream, and then at the top I'm blending a little bit of guava around the edges for just a touch of dimension. Once that's finished, I can remove the purple tape and you'll see this beautifully blended piece that will show through onto the front where my overlay overlaps. Now it's time to finish off the front of the card. I've decided on the Rustic Daisy die, and I'm cutting the first layer from sea salt cardstock and the second layer from Sugar Cube cardstock. I'll also be cutting the flower centers from pineapple cardstock. Once that's finished, I'll be adhering the layers together with my liquid glue. I probably should have cut these with Stick-It on the back, but I didn't, and so I'm using my liquid glue, and it all ended up turning out just fine. After I've adhered the 2 layers of the daisy together, I'm going to use my blender brushes and some honey ink to add a little bit of dimension to the edges of the flower centers. I'm popping those up with a small foam dot, and then I'll add them to the front of my project. I usually try to arrange everything before I adhere anything, so I've arranged the flowers approximately where I want them, and then I use my liquid glue to adhere them. Once they're adhered to the card front, I'm using my scissors to trim off the excess edges from the die cuts. Now we'll create the closure for the card using the basic gray magnetic discs. You'll need 1 plus and 1 minus. I'm going to peel the backing paper. These have adhesive already on them, so you'll stick that down to the closure and then place the other magnet over the top, placing it down on the front of the card so that both of the magnets match up just perfectly. Now we can continue on to the inside of the card. I've cut the Love Story die from Sugar Cube cardstock and I'm blending that to match the card front. So I've used honey toward the bottom, peaches and cream in the middle, and pink champagne at the top. And then I'm following with just a little bit of those darker colors, guava at the top and sweet potato pie along the bottom. I'm going to adhere that in the center of my project down towards the bottom, and then I will stamp my sentiments in that same area. I've turned my MISTI horizontally in order to fit my card and sentiments in there. And I've started with the Grow Old Along With Me, The Best Is Yet To Be sentiment. So I'm stamping that with my Oreo ink, and then I'm also going to use Happy Anniversary below that. Again, picking it up with the lid of my MISTI and stamping with the Oreo ink. You can see how the project is coming together with that overlay across the front and the pocket inside. I decided the front needed a little something more, so I have With Love on Our Anniversary from the Flip the Lace stamp set. I'm stamping that down with Oreo ink onto sugar cube cardstock. I've used quite a large piece of cardstock so that I can use my paper trimmer to trim that to exactly the size that I want. Once I have that trimmed, I'm going to adhere it to the front flap of the card, making sure that I only add adhesive on the left side of the overlay. So once I've done that, I want to make sure I cover up the magnet with my sentiment, and then I'm using an adhesive remover to get off a little bit of extra adhesive. I found this picture in our old photo albums, so I added that to the pocket inside. Hopefully you learned something new about our Baroque pocket and overlay, and I hope you use it to make something special for someone in your life. You can find all of these products at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com.